All the way around here, please. If you'll raise your right hand, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. If you have a seat. When you sit down there, if you'll say your first and last name and spell them both. And it's really important that you speak loudly into that microphone there, so everybody can hear you. Can you do that for me?
Rebecca Dishman.
Okay. Probably needs to be a little bit louder than that. Okay. So go tell me your first name and last name and spell them both.
Rebecca Dishman. REBECCADISHMEN.
Very good. And like I said, if you can keep speaking up, that will help. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Rebecca, are you a little nervous today?
Yes.
Are you excited to testify?
Yes, I've waited for this moment for 4 years.
But still feeling a little nervous, a little adrenaline.
Yes.
I've talked to you before. If you need me to repeat a question, if you need anyone to repeat a question, don't hesitate to ask, okay? Can you tell us when you were born?
April 30th, 1998.
So how old are you today?
I'm 26.
Can you tell me about where you grew up?
I grew up in Maryville, Tennessee.
Who did you live with growing up?
I grew up with my parents.
And are they still with us?
No, they passed away when I was 18.
Do you remember what year that was?
2016.
So is that also about the year you finished high school?
I was a senior. I was in the process of graduating.
So who did you live with when your parents passed?
I lived with my fiance at the time.
How long did you stay there?
A couple years.
Did you ever get married to him?
No.
So what happened that you no longer lived there after 2 years?
My aunt and uncle, Bobby Brown and Carol Brown, took me in.
And when was that?
I don't recall.
Okay. But do you recall how long you lived there with, you said Bobby Brown and Carol Brown?
Maybe a year, not for sure.
So you stayed with them for about a year. Did you leave voluntarily?
They kind of just washed their hands of me. They got tired of me.
Do you know why that was?
Because I was with another fiance and had decided to move in with him, and they weren't happy.
How many fiancés have you had?
I've been engaged 5 times, but I've lived with the 3 of them.
Okay. So when you left Bobby and Carol Brown, you said you went and moved with another fiance, and they washed their hands of you.
Yes.
How long did you stay there?
I believe it was a year or so.
And how did that turn out? Did you marry that person?
No.
Did you stay living with them?
No, they moved.
Okay. So where did you go from there?
I ended up staying with my best friend, Tabitha Sparks, and she ended up kicking me out as well.
So where to from there?
I moved back in with Crystal Mays, which is the mother of Austin, my first fiance.
And did you stay living there for a while?
Yes, until they kicked me back out.
Okay. So what was the next place?
Rick and Jenny Fry. I've known them since I was...
Could you say that again and speak up? I think the court reporter was having trouble hearing
Rick and
you.
Jenny Fry.
One more time.
Sorry. Rick and Jenny Fry.
Okay, thank you. And did you stay there for a significant amount of time?
Yes.
When did you leave that location?
I believe it was August, September of 2019.
And what happened that made you leave there?
I had met Sean on Facebook and decided to move in with him 2 weeks after meeting him. He
Okay.
convinced me.
What was that last part?
He convinced me to move in with him.
Okay. So you say you met him on Facebook.
Mhm.
and moved in with him about 2 weeks later. Am I hearing that correctly? Again, sorry, it is.
Yes.
Make sure you speak into the mic. Could you tell us about that interaction, about meeting him on Facebook and what happened in that 2-week period?
Our relationship was kind of fast, and within the 2 weeks, I decided to move in because the people that I was staying with, I felt like I was scared that they would end up kicking me out, and I was hoping that things would work out better.
So how did you feel about trying to move in with Sean?
At the beginning, I felt, comfort and safe.
Okay. Now, you said that he had convinced you to move in. Could you tell us about that, please?
Like, the first text that I recall is he was telling me that he wanted me to move in with him, that he wanted me to live with him and be his girl.
And did you like that idea?
Yes.
So after about 2 weeks, how did you get to his place to move in?
I had basically told Rick and Jenny that I was leaving. I packed my stuff, and he came to get me, and I moved in with him.
So what were things like when you moved in?
The first couple weeks were okay, and I went to go take a shower, and that was our first argument. He pushed me, and I ended up cutting my leg pretty bad, and that led to my first punishment.
Okay. Now, when you met him on Facebook, and of course when he came, was it he who came and picked you up?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know how old he was?
No.
Did you ever have a conversation about how old he was?
He had told me that he was in his 40s at the time.
Okay. Did you know anything about his background or what he did for a living?
Not really. I just knew that he worked at the bar,
Okay. Did you know what bar it was he worked at?
the Pint House in Knoxville.
Okay. And when did he usually work?
Like mornings, I think, like anywhere from 5 to 5 the next day.
So when you say mornings, like he would come home in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
So 5 to 5 the next day would be like 5 p.m.
To 5
and then
a.m.
5 a.m. Okay. Now, who else lived at that house with you?
His mother at the time.
Did you notice anything about her physical condition or shape?
He had told me that she was on hospice and her health was bad.
Okay. Is that something that, having seen her, sounded accurate to you?
She had her good and bad days.
Okay. So when he was at work, who was there at the house when he had those overnights?
Myself and Francis.
Okay. Could you sort of describe what the house, or this apartment, it was a quadplex, right? It kind of looks like a house, but there are multiple units, is that right? Like multiple, you have neighbors who have one unit, you have a unit,
Yes.
like an apartment. Can you describe just, what the house looks like, the apartment you're in looked like?
There was 2 levels and a laundry room, and the apartments were separated by a driveway.
Okay. So what was in the downstairs level?
The kitchen, living room area, and upstairs was the bedroom area and bathroom area.
Okay, so did his mom have a bedroom there that was hers?
Yes.
And where did you stay?
I stayed with Sean in his bedroom.
In his bedroom. Okay, so there's 2 bedrooms.
Yes.
Bathroom also upstairs.
Just upstairs.
Okay. What was your relationship like with his mother?
I mean, we had our ups and downs. She had her good days and bad days. I didn't really have a good or bad relationship, somewhat neutral with her.
So during the day, you weren't hanging out with Miss
No.
Francis, is that her name?
Yes.
Did you ever talk to any neighbors?
Yes, Mahogany Pit.
Okay. And where did Mahogany live in relation to where you stayed there with Mr. Finnegan?
She lived across from us in the other apartment complex.
So if you go out your front door, they live in front of you, or if you go out your back door, they live behind you?
The front door.
Okay. So, what were you doing at the time? You said he was working at the Pine House. What did you do?
I stayed at home and I was a stay-at-home girlfriend.
Okay. Had you worked anywhere before you moved in with him?
Yes, but I lost my jobs.
Could you repeat that, please?
I lost my jobs.
Was that you lost your job?
Yes.
Where had you been working?
I worked for 2 years as a CNA at Kindred in Maryville. Five Guys, I was a cashier, and then at Huddle House, I was a waitress.
And you were let go from each of those jobs?
Yes, all of them.
Okay. So if I could draw your attention back to something you said a little while ago. You talked about the first time that you got in a fight with him, or
Yes.
I think you said he shoved you.
Yes.
Could you give us some more detail about when that was, what happened?
I had asked to borrow his phone to be on Facebook, and one of my exes texted, and it led to him getting angry and shoving me in the shower.
I'm gonna check. Can we approach?
All right. If you could continue telling us about that particular event.
About
We were talking about that event where, it's kind of hard to hear you. I think you said you had messaged someone on Facebook, or they had messaged you?
yes, my ex had messaged me and was texting explicit messages, and it led to him getting angry with me and shoving me in the shower, which I cut my leg and fell.
Is that the only time something like that happened?
No.
Tell us about the next time you recall.
Later, when I got out of the shower, he told me that, he wasn't happy with me, and there was consequences to that. Like, I had to have sex with him, and he tied my hands to the bed and scratched me down my back and made me bleed.
Now, how would you consider the dynamic of your relationship? Who was in charge?
Sean.
And you had said you did something that made him unhappy,
Yes.
and that there were consequences. He told you
Yes.
there were consequences. Was that a normal part of your relationship with Sean Finnegan?
I didn't know that it would come to that extent. Like, I knew it would be kinky sex, but I didn't think it would be violent as it was.
Okay, so to rephrase that, you knew there was going to be kinky sex,
Yes,
and you were consenting to that.
yes,
You were okay with that.
yes,
You were engaged with him and an active participant
Yes.
in that. Is that correct? And so you said you didn't expect it to get as violent as it did.
right.
What do you mean by that?
He was a lot more aggressive than I thought he was gonna be. I wasn't expecting it to be as harsh as it was, the punishments and just the dynamic and power role, I guess you could say.
Okay, when you say you didn't expect it to be, as harsh or as aggressive, what kind of things would he do then as punishment?
Anywhere from putting me in a dog cage and urinating on me and climaxing, defecating on me, chaining me up with a dog chain, using box cutters on me, sodomizing me, using torch ladders on me, just very violent punishments.
And I understand this is probably hard to talk about, but when you say using these things on you, what do you mean he was using them for? What was he doing?
For his sexual gratification.
Okay. So you say he used chains on you.
Yes.
How specifically were they used on you?
It was wrapped around my neck with a padlock, and he made me walk on all fours and act like a dog.
Okay. And the same thing, he put you in the dog cage.
Yes.
Okay. You said he used box cutter? Is that what you
Yes.
said? How did he
used
use
it
that?
On my inner thighs and cut.
All right. So he would use a box cutter and cut on your inner thighs. And you also said something about a torch.
Yes.
What kind of torch?
It,
No. Can't do that in here. Can't do that in here. Sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. What kind of torch?
a torch lighter.
Like a torch lighter? Could you describe what that looks like? How is that different than like a cigarette lighter?
It's usually used for like lighting grills and
Okay.
other things like that.
And what would he do with that?
He made me perform oral sex on him, and he had his leg over my throat and was burning my shoulder at the time.
Okay. What was your name for him? If you referred to him as Sean, and did you refer to him as anything else?
At the time, I was his little girl, and I called him Daddy.
Okay. Did you love him?
Yes,
Do you still love him?
yes,
Were these punishments he did and the things you described as harsh or aggressive, did those continue for your whole relationship?
yes, and they continue to get worse.
If I could draw your attention back to like the winter, like around December of 2019, do you recall anyone else coming in to the home?
Yes, Jennifer.
Could you tell us about what happened when Jennifer came in?
She came in and I was putting the bed up and I was confused because I didn't know the woman, and Sean later came in and introduced us together. She made breakfast and asked to take a shower, and once she went to go take a shower, Sean asked me, "Do you want to kidnap her?" And
How did you react to that?
I knew that I had no say-so really in the matter, that he controlled the house, and anything I said, even if it was a no, that it wouldn't have mattered anyways.
Do you know how Miss Paxton got to the house?
No, I'm assuming that he just,
Yep. Don't assume. Did she arrive the same time Sean arrived?
yes,
Okay. And this was a time he had gone to work and he came home?
yes,
Okay. So she's there, makes breakfast, takes a shower, and he's talking to you while she's in the shower. Is that right, or was it before or after she got out of the shower that he made that statement about kidnapping her?
when she was in the shower.
Okay, so what happened when she got out of the shower?
She ate breakfast and we were talking, and after she ate breakfast, he walked her over towards the back door and was showing her a baseball bat. And then he started hitting her over the head. And I went into shock, and he yelled at me to go upstairs because his mother was coming down for her medication.
So when this started, where were you? When he's talking to her about the baseball bat?
I was in front of the fireplace in the middle of the living room.
Okay. And so you said they're closest to the back door,
Yes,
right, and Miss Finnegan is getting her medicine.
yes.
Where was she?
She was upstairs, but she was in the process of coming down.
Okay. So at that point, he instructs you to intercept.
Yes.
So what do you do then?
I went upstairs and I told her to stay in the room because I didn't want her to see what was going on.
And did she do that? Do what you asked her to do at that point?
She fussed at me and went back to bed.
And what did you do?
By the time I got downstairs, they were fighting. Jennifer had the fire grate over her to protect her, and there was blood on the floor.
When you say the fire grate, you said you were saying about fireplace earlier. There's the thing in front of the fire place, or like the thing that logs would be in,
The thing that is in front of the fire.
like the screen.
Yes.
Okay. So you say she's got that, defending herself with it. Is she hitting him with it, or is she holding it over her?
She was just defending herself with it, holding it to her body and head.
Was that effective defense?
No.
So what happened is when you arrived and you see that going on, what's going on next?
I was in shock and I approached slowly, and he told me to go into the kitchen and get the cleaning supplies.
And what did you do when you got the cleaning supplies?
He told me to clean up the blood, and he was disgrading her. He ripped her pants down and was screaming at her and said,
You need to speak up some more, a little louder, okay? A little closer to the microphone.
he said, "Why don't you shave?" And she started crying, and he just spat on her and was really aggressive towards her.
So she's there on the ground, it sounds like at this point.
Yes.
And he's ripping that off. And you have cleaning supplies.
Yes.
What's going on at that point?
I was in shock, and he told me to clean up the blood around her, and I did so. And at one point, he told me to get on one side and he got on the other, and both of us went up the stairs with her and walked her to his bedroom.
So are you each propping her up
By
at this
the-
point? Or are you just like
arm.
walking her and escorting her?
Escorting her.
Okay, so she's conscious
Yes.
at this point still. And so you walk up the stairs. What happens when you get up there?
He locks the door and lays her on the floor on my side of the bed, and he makes her perform oral sex on her. Like, and I'm forced to watch.
Okay, could you repeat that? I think the court reporter was having a hard time hearing you.
He forced her to perform oral sex on him, and I was forced to watch.
And so forgive me for being very overt with this. But you say he forced her to perform oral sex. Could you tell us where his penis is?
He put his penis in her mouth and
Okay.
ripped her clothes.
And she's in the floor next to the bed.
Yes.
Where are you?
I was crouched beside him.
And how long did that continue?
Until he got angry and pulled my shirt down and made me finish.
And what do you mean by he made you finish?
He wasn't satisfied with her, and he made me perform oral on him.
So is that in the same way that you just described that he had Miss Paxton
Yes.
perform oral on him? And so he pulled your shirt down and had you do that,
Yes.
and you said he finished?
Yes.
And what happened at the conclusion?
He went downstairs to clean up the blood and told me to watch her to make sure she didn't leave the room.
Did he make any other statements
No.
about that point before going down? Okay. So he went down to clean up the blood better
Yes.
and then comes upstairs. You're in the room with her. What's going on while he's downstairs?
I'm thinking that he was cleaning up the blood.
Are you on the bed? Are you next to the bed?
I was standing next to the bed.
So about how long was he down there, if you recall?
No more than 5 minutes.
And what happens when he comes back up?
He grabs her and chains her to the side of his bed and tells me he has to leave for work and kisses me goodbye and leaves me there with her and tells me not to leave the house, to keep her there if anything happens, to take care of it. Like, keep her from yelling to hurt her.
Had she yelled out?
No.
Did she have any sort of vocal reaction in that first impact with the bat or when she has the fire screen?
Yes, she was screaming.
Okay. So he leaves for work. She's
Yes.
chained to the bed. Where are the keys to the chain?
He took them to work with him.
And so he's at work all day and you're there
Yes.
and she's still where?
Chained to the side of the bed.
Did you have any conversations with her in this period of time?
Yes, as I was feeding her and giving her drinks and letting her smoke, we talked a little bit.
Did you try to let her go?
At one point,
Tell us about that.
I took a knife, like a kitchen knife, and tried to pop the locks, and I cut the zip ties off, and it led to Sean getting angry with me.
Okay, so he's at work and you do this.
Yes.
When he comes home from work, Where is everybody? Describe that scene for us.
Frances stayed in her room while all this was going on.
Okay. So he comes back. Are you in the living room or are you in the bedroom with her when he gets home from work?
I believe I was in the bedroom at the time.
Okay. So he walks in and he sees this scene.
Yes.
Tell us about that reaction.
He was angry. He was like, why the fuck did you cut her zip ties? She could have grabbed anything and stabbed you or hurt you. She could have got free.
Was that all that happened? Is that he yelled at you about it?
Yes.
And what did he do about her being chained there?
He told me not to do it again, and he put the zip ties back on her.
Was there any punishment for you at that point for undoing any of the fastenings or chains?
I believe he made me perform oral sex.
Okay. Were there anything else that he did sexually at any point to Miss Paxton?
He forced my adult toys inside of her and forced his fingers on her and forced me to watch. And also, at one point, she was on the floor and he was behind me and he forced me to climax over her.
So, in the course of this, you are actively participating in sexual activity with Miss Paxton, too. Is that correct?
I couldn't climax until he forced me to climax.
But that does mean
Yes.
that you are participating. And when you say he forced you to climax, what do you mean by that?
He physically, like, aggressively rubbed me until I climaxed.
Okay, so he is touching you while you're over her.
Yes.
If we have the picture of that. And what did he do at your climax?
She was revolted by it, and she said I was gonna throw up, and he slapped her across the face, and I just shut down and left.
When you say you left, where did you go?
I went downstairs.
Okay. And when you say that he used adult toys and forced them inside her, again, we do have to be specific here. We can't assume what you mean by that. Where did he force those toys?
He used a vibrator on her vaginally.
Okay. Anywhere else?
Not that I remember.
So you go downstairs. Does he follow you? What happens after that?
I just cooled off for a minute, and then I came back upstairs.
Okay. And when you come back upstairs, where are Sean Finnegan and Jennifer Paxton?
We went to sleep.
Okay. And when we're talking about you going to sleep, where is she?
In the floor, beside Sean.
Chained to the bed.
Yes.
And where are you?
On the left side of Sean.
Okay. And he is in the bed?
Yes.
Yeah. That's basically what I'm asking. Are the two of you are in the bed and she is in the floor, if I'm
Yes.
understanding what you said correctly? Did you ever have a key to those padlocks?
No.
So during the day, since you don't have a key, what do you do about Ms. Paxton if she has to relieve herself or go to the bathroom?
There was cigarette pill outside that I used for her to use the bathroom in. And she had to wear adult briefs.
Okay. So when you talk about a cigarette pill, could you sort of tell us how
It
big or
was
small that was?
big enough to hold, like, maybe a gallon.
Well, if you could, was this like a big bucket, or was this flower pot size? If you could compare it to something.
Yeah, like
Okay.
a flower pot.
Okay. Did Miss Paxton ask to leave?
Yes.
What could you do about that?
I told her that I wish I could let her leave, but I didn't have any way of letting her go, and it really upset me.
Did she ever tell Mr. Finnegan she needed to leave or wanted to leave?
Yes.
What was his reaction?
He told her that as he was killing her, that she wasn't going anywhere, that she was going to die.
So when you say he said told her, you're going to die,
Yes.
what did she do?
She started crying.
And what did he do?
He just kicked her and spat on her and was really aggressive.
Did he any time follow through on telling her she had to die?
He did this as he was strangling her.
Okay. So if you could tell us about that specifically. She's been in the house, he has gone to work, he's come back from work. What happened in, let's say, the last portion of her life? Could you walk us through what was going on?
Yes. One day he came home from work and he had bags that had shower curtains, washcloths, bleach, gloves, and things of that nature. And I thought it was for, the house, but he was carrying it upstairs, and once he carried it upstairs, I knew that he was gonna kill her. He had me go with him and shower her in the shower, and as he was strangling her, I was cleaning up the blood that was left over in the shower. And at one point he screamed at me to get in the bedroom, that I was taking too long. And I came in and he told me to lock the door. And as I walked in, he was straddled over her, strangling her with a shoestring, and told me to help him. And I just shut down and sat on the bed and just gave up, essentially,
How long did this go on?
for hours.
Could you describe for us specifically what was going on in the course, if you say this was hours?
He would start and stop, like take breaks in between, and he wouldn't allow me to leave the room to empty the ashtray or anything, and I just sat on the bed.
So was he smoking
Yes.
in between while this is going on? Were you?
Yes.
Was she allowed to smoke in the course of this?
No.
Okay. So you try to take ashtray out. No, you've got to stay in here.
Yes.
He's choking over shoestrings, stops, cigarette break.
Yes.
However long this goes on, what finally concluded this episode?
he went to empty the ashtray, and she was taking her last breath, and I got on my hands and knees and told her goodbye because I knew she was dying. And he came back inside and slapped me across the face and left for work because they were blowing his phone up because he was really late for work.
So when she finally passed, and you said you knew she was going to, was Mr. Finnegan choking her at that point, or
He was in
Okay.
the bathroom emptying the ashtray.
after he had choked her?
Yes.
And so they're blowing up his phone for work.
Yes.
What happens with her body laying there on the ground?
She takes her last breath and she just dies.
Okay. So she died, and he says, I'm going to go to work? Is that
Yes.
what you're saying? So what happens? He goes to work, and you're there.
Yes. From the time he left to the time he came home, I was on his side of the bed, checking her pulse, and just in a state of shock and fear.
Did she have a pulse?
No,
Did you call 911?
no,
Did you have a phone
no.
at that point? So he comes home from work after he's worked his whole shift,
Yes.
presumably. So what happens when he arrives home that night, or early the next morning?
Me and him clean up any blood and anything that's left over, and we brought her downstairs, and he put her in a freezer downstairs and blocked it from people getting in. Like, the door was faced towards the stairwell.
So is this the freezer that you had there in the kitchen?
No, this was a different freezer.
So this is a different freezer?
Yes.
When did that freezer show up at the house?
I don't know exact dates, but it was there before Jennifer died.
Long time before, short time before?
Shortly.
Okay. So it's there in the living room, you put her in,
Yes.
and he positions it so that the door is facing the wall.
Yes.
How long was it in that position?
I'm not for sure.
But did that change at some point?
Yes.
Could you tell us about that, please?
At one point, he was scared of someone going in the freezer, and we took her body out and carried the freezer upstairs, and then carried her body upstairs and put her in the closet.
So how did this freezer get power in the closet? Is there an
He-
outlet in there?
He ran an extension cord to an outlet.
Okay. So at this point, she's in the freezer. What is the state of her body? Is she wearing her clothes?
No.
What happened to her clothes?
I believe that they were in a bag, like, for tossing away.
For tossing away, is that what you
Yeah.
said? Okay. And so, before she's put in the freezer, could you walk us through again the process before putting her in the freezer the first time?
When we put her in the freezer, Sean was in front of her and I was behind her. And he forced her body to go inside of the freezer, and she made a noise, like snapping noise, and blood went on me, and it freaked me out.
So was she completely naked at
Yes.
that point? Did she have anything around her or anything else done to the body?
She had a shower curtain and garbage bags.
Okay. So she's in that same sort of wrapped up state when you
Yes.
move the freezer up to the bedroom closet.
Yes.
Did you notice anything else about him doing anything to the closet door?
He changed the locks.
Did the closet previously have a doorknob that locked?
No.
And so he changed it to a different
Yes.
doorknob? Okay. So Miss Paxton is in the freezer that is in the bedroom. Did you ever notice anything else that drew your attention to this situation? Did you ever walk in and see Sean? Did you ever see Sean in the bedroom?
Yes.
Did you ever see Sean in the bedroom doing something that made you think that's unusual?
Yes.
Could that's tell us about that.
There was one or two times that I caught him masturbating to Jennifer.
Could you describe that scene for us?
The first time I was taking a shower and I came in to put my dirty clothes in the hamper and he was masturbating and he held out his hand and I was confused as to what it was until I looked over and he had cut off her nose and intimate areas.
And what did you do when you walked in and saw that?
It freaked me out. I ran downstairs and was almost outside of the door, but he yelled at me to get back inside.
So when you walk in and see it, could you go into more detail? Where is he in relation to the freezer?
He was standing in front of it.
He's standing in front of it.
Yes,
And so is the freezer open or closed?
open.
Could you describe, could you see inside from where you were?
Yes.
Could you describe what you observed from that point?
He had the garbage bag ripped open from her head to her cleavage.
Okay. So you ran downstairs at that point, you said,
Yes,
and he yelled at you.
yes.
What happened after that?
After I went upstairs, he closed the door and made me perform oral sex on him because it aroused him.
Could you repeat that last part?
Because it aroused him.
Because it aroused him, is that what you said? Sorry. Do need you to speak up, sorry. In the course of your relationship with him and while this has happened and you're living in this situation, did anything change?
It just kept getting worse.
When you say it kept getting worse, what do you mean?
The power control, punishments, consequences, all of that.
Did you try to tell anyone about this?
Yes,
Who did you tell?
I told Mahogany, Pia, and I told my cousin Paula and one of my exes at the time, but I didn't have any luck.
When you told one of your exes at the time, how did you go about doing that? You've already said you didn't have a phone, so what did you do?
I went to a neighbor's house and borrowed her phone to text him,
Okay.
and I said, I need help.
And did you ever hear back from that?
No,
Okay. So, how many times did you tell Mahogany about these kinds of things?
at least 2 or 3 times.
Okay. Could you tell us about what led up to your eventually telling people what had happened?
She was noticing the bruises on my eyes, and she knew that something wasn't right. Because she kept asking me, Rebecca, what's wrong? What is he really doing to you?
Okay. So at that point, did you decide to do something?
Not at first, but later on.
So walk us through that.
One day she came over and showed me that he had been to prison for.
Stop. Walk us through your decision with Mahogany that you eventually decided to seek shelter.
Just name it first.
Sure. Step out for about 10 minutes. I'll call you back.
All rise. Jerry, follow me. Be seated.
objection, please, sir.
The witness just testified that after he told her that he had been to prison, something to that effect. And obviously that's,
After he told her,
he said that Sean told her that he had been to prison. And so I think is what
Sean
she
told
testified.
her, so I thought this was in relation to a conversation she was having with,
Oh, I'm sorry, somebody else told her that Sean had been to prison. That's right,
Right.
that's right.
Another
So,
person.
another person, I apologize, Judge. But
so
the po-
objection hearsay,
it's an objection hearsay, but also,
but you didn't make an objection.
right, but I am making an objection now because I'm moving for a mistrial based on the fact that she brought up, whether it's a fact or not, it doesn't matter. She said that he's been to prison, and this entire case is about a power dynamic, and their whole case is about a power dynamic and who's in charge and who's in not. I can't unring that bell, and a curative instruction's not going to unring that bell. And so my position is that it's manifest necessity to stop this trial right now and start over again if we're going to do it. But right now, I can't come back from the fact that she said he's been to prison. I can't. And there's no way that you can mention it and say, well, that she didn't mean that. There's no way that you can say, I don't know how you cure it, Judge. And so I can't recover. So I think that it's manifest necessity because I cannot get an impartial verdict at this point in
I
time.
understand. State.
Your Honor, please. The state would oppose the defendant's motion. The witness's answer was not responsive to the question, and certainly we could avoid this with a little more latitude on leading when I try to get to different subjects. Nevertheless, it was intended to elicit conversations about getting the shelter and talking to someone at the shelter when she gave them that information and they had a room for her, is where we're going. So it was a non-responsive answer. It was very quick, and it was the kind that is hearsay. Somebody told me this, and we immediately pivoted to try to get back on track. So there's no other information on that other than what is, even in lay terms, hearsay. It's certainly not anything that is completely detrimental to the defense. The state has no intention of arguing that his prison history is what created this dynamic. We're talking about their BDSM and their sexual history that is creating this dynamic, and not at all his criminal record getting into that. There are a number of things, obviously, that Mr. Finnegan has in his past, and we have not proffered those or tried to do anything untoward to elicit that information. This simply isn't manifest necessity. It is an offhand statement in what is going to be hours and hours of testimony in this case in total. We do believe that the motion for the new trial should be, or mistrial should be denied. If Your Honor believes a curative instruction is appropriate, the state certainly doesn't object to that, and we would frankly move to strike her answer that was non-responsive to the state's question. On the other hand, if it is, there is the argument that it is better for the jury to just gloss over that and nobody ever mention it again, so as not to draw any attention to that. And then the state is okay with whichever way that the court wants to address this. But again, don't believe in the context of everything that this in any way requires a mistrial.
So in y'all's proof in regard to enhancers, let's say there's a conviction or aggravators, from what I looked at, you're not introducing prior record. Is that correct, or you are introducing prior record?
Well, that of course the defense would, or the defendant would already be found
I know, I'm
guilty.
just asking.
And so there was a notice filed of notice of enhancement for prior convictions.
And aren't those just are they drug convictions?
There's a drug and there's a firearm charge. There's not domestic violence, for example.
Okay.
Judge, can I just follow up one more thing?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
She's a state witness and has been for a year. They took a plea in September last year. I have to assume that that was put together before we got here because that was staged when we got here in September. We didn't know they were taking a plea until we got here. So we assumed that they had already spoken to her and they knew what they were doing before they got here. So it's a state witness that tells the story, that is the main accuser against the defendant, and their entire prosecution is based on a power struggle on what happened at those events. Credibility is everything. She just said he went to prison. I just don't know how, I can come back from that, Judge.
Well, frankly, Your Honor, if they're arguing credibility, they're arguing that's not true, whatever she said on that.
I got it, I'm good. So I'm ruling on a motion for mistrial based upon misconduct, and this would be misconduct by a witness. The trial judge must review the circumstances and must decide whether the misconduct has been prejudicial, thereby preventing a fair trial under the circumstances. And our courts have said, and it's the case of State v. Nash, 294 Southwest 3rd, 541 Tennessee, 2009. It says in determining whether to grant a mistrial, a trial court should consider following. One, whether the state elicited the testimony or whether it was unsolicited and unresponsive. It clearly was unsolicited and unresponsive. Whether the trial court offered and or gave a curative instruction. I think I can give such a curative instruction. And the relative strength or weakness of the state's case. All I've heard is just the state's case so far. So based on what I've heard so far, it seems to be strong, but I can't balance those. So based upon that, I'm going to deny your motion for a mistrial, and I'll give a curative instruction when the jury returns. So, do y'all need another break, or can I bring them in? Can I bring them in? Huh?
We can continue, thank you.
Yes. Give me 2 minutes. And Ms. Dishman, I don't know how to say this any other way. You've got to talk louder. This lady can't hear you. I don't know who can hear you. Sit closer to the microphone. This doesn't work unless people hear you. Okay? So speak up, please. Okay? All right. Y'all run the restroom. I'll give you 3 minutes. Okay? Thank you. We'll bring our jury in. Everybody rise, please. Thank you. Have a seat, please. In trial proceedings, a lot of times we don't let in testimony. It's called hearsay. And hearsay is an out-of-court statement introduced for the truth of the matter asserted. That's lawyer talk. So basically what it means is you can't come up here and say so-and-so told me something and without that person being here to say it, because either side couldn't ask questions. Makes sense, right? And there's about 25 exceptions. So sometimes those exceptions come into play, so it's not a golden rule. But I tell you that because I'm going to give you an instruction that mentions the word hearsay, and I want you to understand what that means. Everybody got that? Very good. So, when Ms. Dishman was testifying, she made reference to a third-party hearsay statement about the defendant having been to prison. This reference is inadmissible hearsay and cannot be considered by you for any purpose. This reference is stricken, and you shall put this statement out of your minds moving forward. Can everybody do that for me? You understand why? Okay, we're good? All right, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, you continue with your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, you had talked with Mahogany about getting a shelter placement,
Yes.
is that correct? Could you tell us about your interactions with getting a shelter?
Mahogany and I had talked a little bit about it, but I was too afraid at the time to do anything.
Was there a particular event that made you feel that way, or was it just, as you described earlier, it kept getting worse?
It was the fear and with it being worse.
Had you told Mahogany at that point about Jennifer?
No,
Why not?
I knew that if I told her, she would have went to the cops and I would have been in a lot of trouble.
At some point, though, you told her, didn't you?
Yes.
Could you tell us about that?
One day she came over while I was doing laundry and asked me if I wanted to leave. And at first I was hesitant, and she helped me call an abuse shelter, and I called them and told them what was going on with the house. I didn't mention the other case, like with Jennifer, but they told me I need to pack my stuff, and the lady never came. So I broke down and told Mahogany, and she called the cops, and I was led into questioning.
Now let's back up a little bit. So you're having a conversation with somebody at the shelter.
Yes,
Where are you when that conversation's taking place?
Campbell County.
When you're on the phone with them to get the shelter?
Yes,
How did you know to go to Campbell County?
Mahogany had the directions and everything.
So what did you do? You're at the house, Mahogany's got you a shelter. Walk us through.
She helped me call the abuse shelter and helped me through it because I don't understand how to do things like that. I struggle with that.
So did you just walk over to her house and leave?
She helped me pack and I got in her car and we left.
So you drive up, you said Campbell County,
Yes,
and you pull over where you're going to meet a person from the shelter. Is that
yes.
correct? What happens when you arrive there?
We waited for an hour or so and the lady never showed. So I broke down and told Mahogany the truth about Jennifer. And she told me that I would need to talk to the cops and be questioned and things.
So did you stay there in Campbell County at that point?
We were told to go to Oak Ridge.
And so, how do you get to Oak Ridge?
Mahogany follows, and I was in the police car
When did you get in the police car?
as we were in Campbell County
Okay.
talking.
So there in Campbell County, you get in a police car.
Yes.
Are you sure it wasn't in Anderson County when you got back with
It might
Mahogany?
have been like we got mixed up, and it was really confusing that day.
Had you ever been to Campbell County before?
No.
Okay. So you do get back from Campbell County,
Yes.
and you get in a cop car.
Yes.
So that. And where does the cop car take you?
To Oak Ridge Police Department.
And what happens when you arrive there?
I was brought in to questioning, and I told them everything I knew.
At that point, did you tell them that you participated in all
Yes.
these actions? Did you use the phrase, "we killed her"?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there's something you've referenced earlier, that you would ask a neighbor to use a phone. Is that
Right.
accurate? When you used a phone, whose did you use?
Kelsey, our neighbor at the time.
Okay. Any other neighbors' phones that you would use for texting, chatting, anything?
Mahogany's.
Okay. May I approach?
Did they send it?
The first thing I'm going to show you, and this should be something that you have seen before.
Yes.
This is something that you have reviewed. Do you recognize that document?
Yes.
Are those cell phone messages?
Yes.
Are these cell phone messages from Mahogany's phone?
Yes.
And you looked through these, and if you could look for us right now and tell me if you recognize text messages that you sent versus text messages that Mahogany sent. Do those look like your conversations with Sean Finnegan?
Yes.
Okay. And that is the document you've previously looked at?
Yes.
Your Honor, please, I would like to just have this marked for identification at this point.
We'll do identification one.
I'll write that to you. Also, a report that you have seen
Yes.
from Mahogany's cell phone. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Is that indicative of, or that was from, excuse me, Sean Finnegan's cell phone, is that correct?
Yes.
And in the course of your relationship with Mr. Finnegan, did he ever take photographs of you?
Yes.
And in those photographs, were there ever sexually explicit things?
Yes. Many times.
Okay, I am, again with this, going to mark this for identification, that these are pictures that you have seen from his phone that he took of you.
Yes.
Have identification two.
And these are, for identification, multiple, the photos that are in this report. Do you recognize this one?
Yes.
Identification 3. Is this report you?
Yes.
For this picture? Identification 4. Do you recognize this photo?
Yes.
Is that identification 5? And this photo?
Yes.
Identification 6. This photo, is that you?
Yes.
Identification 7. Identification 8, is that you?
Yes.
You recognize that photo?
Yes.
And I believe this will be number 9. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes.
Is this you depicted in this photo?
Yes.
And this is the report that you have seen and identified as the source of those photos, identification 10.
Thanks, sir.
Now, I've shown you some photos. And you indicated that you recognize each of those, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. In those photos, there's one where it looks like they're, well, I was going to do these identifications in line. With your permission, I'd like to go ahead and admit these with Ms. Dishman.
Identification.
The photos, not the report, but the actual photos that she identifies.
And that goes, let's see. Three through 9, does that sound right?
3 through 9 will now become 6.
Let's see, yeah, just make it collective 6.
6.
Collective services. What is this picture?
That is Sean's Facebook profile picture.
Okay. Do you want to cue these up? Yeah, we'll need the TV on. And I can pass these if it's quicker, but if you want to wait and have it queued up here, we can.
Let's give him a chance. If he gets it right, it's him. We'll start passing that, if he gets to it, we will. Okay. So this is the first bit, first photo. We've got them now. And we take it back and put it on the screen. Yes. Okay. And my one, since it's collective 6, whatever ID number we have on it is 6. Is that, no, what's the number that goes on that?
This
The
one's,
one, the first one that you just passed it through.
the first one I passed was 3,
Okay, so it'll be 6, collective 6, number 3.
like to 6, number 3.
Okay, we don't need to pass it. We've got it up there on the screen. You give it back to her.
The next one I'm going to show you is collective 6, number 9, and collective 6, number 6. These are very similar photos. We'll do those back to back. Could you describe what is depicted in these photos?
Sean carved his initial on my lower back with a kitchen knife.
And then he took photos?
Yes.
Okay.
They're just having trouble connecting up to
Let's
the
just,
internet.
let's just pass them. Okay, first one's first. Okay, pass that one first. Okay, next question.
The next one will be Collective 6 for ID. You previously said you recognize that photo. Who is in that photo?
That is me.
And what is depicted in this photo?
I was laying down and he ejaculated on me.
This is Collective 6, Exhibit ID 5 for ID. Do you recognize that picture?
Yes.
And what is depicted in that photo?
He had me defecate and then took pictures.
Okay. And Collective 8, Collective 6, ID 8. You recognize that? Who's depicted in this picture?
Yes, that's me.
And what is this scene?
Defecated on me and took pictures.
Collective 6, ID 7. What is this picture?
It's me. And he used the bathroom on me and took pictures.
Let's wait for a moment until I get all the pictures back, please. All right, next question.
Question probably on a lot of people's mind, Ms. Dishman, is why didn't you tell Mahogany about the murder or run to Dollar General near your house or anything?
At the time, I wasn't thinking rationally. Fear overtook everything.
If I could go back to when Miss Paxton was in the bedroom and you said that Mr. Finnegan was choking her,
Yes.
could you describe specifically, is she face down, face up, on her side? How is she positioned when this is going on?
Face down.
And how is he positioned with her face down?
He was straddled over her.
Could you describe how it is that he's strangling her?
He was on his hands and knees, and he was using the shoestring on her neck.
You just gestured, so I'm going to describe that gesture for the court record. You had your hands and fists, and you pulled upward.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Did you stab Jennifer Paxton?
No.
Did you choke her?
No.
Did you strangle her?
No.
Did you slice her?
No.
Did you hit her with a bat?
No.
I pass this witness, Judge.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our afternoon break now, so it'll be about 20 minutes. Okay? So everybody rise, please.
All rise. Jury following.
Thank you. Have a seat, please. So, counsel, you want to put on some proof in regard to our 404B or ask her some questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
With the court's permission. So, Ms. Dishman, since you've been in jail, since this incident, it's been reported, so I'm asking for you to confirm it, okay?
Yes,
That there was an affair with a corrections officer.
yes,
Is that true?
that's true.
Okay. And that there were pictures that were taken on a phone or something like that with a
Yes.
corrections officer? Okay. And that at some point you reported that corrections officer for the affair?
Yes,
Okay. And also at some point you threatened some other women who may or may not have been involved in a similar kind of affair with that corrections officer. You threatened to kill them?
yes.
Okay. Judge, I think that's clear and convincing.
No, Your Honor, we never disputed, again, that the statement was made. Our issue is in conflating the issues of this trial. We have her saying something after the fact, but no physical confrontation with people, no hitting, no assaults took place, no actual killing or hurting any other person in the jail, but a threat to do so. On the other hand, we have Mr. Finnegan, who has said, I have fantasies about kidnapping someone and wants to. We feel like if we're going to make this go toward motive, he certainly has a motive too, and that evidence should come in. And without that, it is misleading to the jury to only give information of things that she has said and not give information about the things that he has said. Him expressing he wants to kidnap somebody and then kidnapping someone is certainly clear and convincing, more than probative, very relevant to this. To contrast that, her saying something to someone else in a completely different context after the fact in the survival mode that is jail is going to be confusing and misleading to the jury. In the event that you choose to let it in, we do believe that that opens the door to motive on the defendant's side. Because again, these are statements versus statements. Good for the goose, good for the gander in this context. It is not unfairly prejudicial. These are statements he made and then followed through on those statements directly. We have actual physical acts which confirmed his desire to perform those. He said, I'm going to do it, and then he did it. Versus, if you do this, I'll have this reaction, and then never did anything from it. These two aren't the same in terms of their probative value, and they are not the same, frankly, in terms of misleading the jury. It is terribly misleading to the jury to let in what's happened after the fact with Ms. Dishman. It is on point for the kidnapping statements from Mr. Finnegan.
Judge, I'd like to follow up. They're differently postured. She is someone who's pled guilty to a crime and is the state's witness. And I get to challenge her credibility, and I get to challenge her motives, especially since she's already pled guilty to it, and our entire defense is who made the acts. Besides the fact that the 404B they're trying to get in is through her.
Well, I'm going to rule on their 404B, but help me with this one. So tell me what you think material issue exists other than conduct conform with character, correct?
Okay. Because she's claiming that he's abusive, and we're talking about this power dynamic. In the jail, she's having an affair so that she can get benefits inside the jail. It's a very similar situation as, say, living with someone and not having a job.
I don't have proof of benefits inside the jail. What I've
Well-
got proof of is that she told somebody that if they didn't stop this relationship, she'd kill them. I think that's what she said.
Well, she did, but she also carried on this relationship for the purpose of benefits. And,
How do I know that?
well, I could ask her.
Like,
If
I've already done
it's a
that,
clear,
so
convincing
ain't
issue.
that, I guess besides that, for benefits, what else, what?
Then
what's the-
when some other people were involved, for instance, like when Jennifer Paxton showed up at their house, she threatened the other two women who were involved. She was in jail. She didn't have the same kind of freedom that she had in that house where she wasn't locked up or chained or held down in any possible way. Then she went and turned him in when it went south, the same way she did in the jail. Once it was found out and she wasn't getting her way and she threatened those people, she went and turned the guy in. And now he's being prosecuted. It's exactly the same scenario according to the defense. And so it's probative to me be able to challenge her credibility and who has the actual control and the power in this situation, Judge. I mean, that's the whole defense.
Well, I thought you had to show that it went, not that it conformed with the character trait, but that in fact it went with motive or intent or something like that.
It does. It goes
Which one?
motive and intent. It goes to show her motive, which is jealousy. So her motive in killing Miss Paxton was jealousy that he brought her home. And jealousy, she threatened two other women in the jail because they were with the person who she viewed as having a relationship with. And then she turned him in afterwards. Exactly, she left and went and told the people about the person that she was getting the benefit from and having the relationship with. It tracks, Judge. I mean, and it goes to motive and intent because she's proven that she has done it again. It's not just propensity evidence. It goes that she has the ability to do it. They've raised the issue of mental incapacity and all this other stuff, Judge. I'm trying to the jury before we ever got started. So, I mean, part of this is to show that she can do those things because she has done those things. And it's not just propensity. It's to show lack of accident, motive, intent.
Your Honor, please, this is the problem we have with this. In order to get that information in, you have to have the context, and what he's doing is rank speculation on what her motivation is with her relationship with this corrections officer. So what happens is we end up going either he's making assumptions and leaps which are not in evidence, or we have to put that information in evidence and litigate this whole separate pending case, which is inappropriate to do in this context. And he's conflating how it's the same thing. What is the same thing in this case is that when she's had a man in power exploit her and she's turned him in, that's been corroborated and her statements have been very accurate. What the issue is with her statement is different from this, but you can't lump all of that in, again, without litigating that separate case. And again, the context for this is that her statements were corroborated. His argument that she is getting benefit is unsubstantiated and,
I got it.
again, just requires full hearing on that.
Okay. You want to add something?
She keeps saying her statements are corroborated. No, they're not. She came in here and testified about it, and and then later on, there's a murder that's being prosecuted. That's not corroboration of her statements of some other kidnapping that he's talking about.
She said there was a body in the freezer, there's a body in the freezer. She said this guy has child porn on his
I got
phone, he
it.
has child porn on his
I
phone.
promise, I got it.
This is,
I'll be back in about 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Keep seated. regard to the 404B issue, the proof that I've gotten so far, and the requirement for the case law in Tennessee is, let me find it for you. The court must upon request form with a character trait and must upon request state on the record the material issue, the ruling, the reason for admitting the evidence. Defense counsel has said that the material issue, other than conduct and form, is motive and intent. Those are the two things you told me. And then when you spoke about it, you said she got a benefit from this relationship she had in prison or in jail, like she got a benefit from Mr. Finnegan. And then you also said that your theory is that she's the one who killed this person out of jealousy, and this is shown because she was jealous in the jail. I think that's what you told me. So, respectfully, I don't have clear and convincing evidence about the benefit or the jealousy. I do about she made a threat. So if you've got some additional questions you'd like to ask her about the benefit and the jealousy, I'll let you do that and try to convince me it's clear and convincing. But right now, I'm not there.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So, just back about the jail affair, is that whenever you would, the officer, can you tell me how that happened? The officer would drop a phone off with you?
Yes.
Okay, and why did he drop the phone off with you?
To give him pictures and videos.
Okay. Did you gain any special privileges for doing this?
No.
You didn't? You didn't get extra time outside or any extra meals or anything like that?
No.
No? Did you get treated better by the corrections officer?
Not really.
No? You thought you had a relationship with him,
Yes.
but he treated you the same as every other correction officer?
Yes.
You had a relationship with him, you gave him sexual pictures, right?
Yes.
And you threatened someone to kill them because they were also flirting with him, right?
Yes, but.
But he was only
treating.
treating you like every other corrections officer. Is that right?
I said that, but I didn't mean it actually, like, that I was going to fully intend to.
You're talking about killing them, right?
Or,
Yeah, so let's talk about the relationship, though. You said you didn't receive any special treatment, and you didn't.
Asked and answered.
Okay.
Let's go to the jealousy.
So when you threatened those girls,
yes,
it was because of jealousy, right?
I was upset
You were upset because you were jealous, right?
a little,
Okay,
I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
a little.
a little. A little means you were jealous, right? I mean, you were jealous enough to threaten people, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
What did you do physically to them after making that statement, I'll kill you if you do this? What did you do?
I wept.
You wept?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Did you push anyone?
No.
Shove them?
No.
Shank them?
No.
Cut them?
No.
Punch them?
No.
You wept?
Yes.
So I guess, help me understand this. So you tell these girls, how many did you tell? 2 or 3, or how many did you tell?
I have problems with one.
1, okay. And you told her, I'm gonna kill you if you do what?
If she talked to him.
I didn't hear you.
She talked to him.
Tell me again.
If she talked to him.
If she talked to him, and so you thought she was gonna interfere with your relationship with him by talking to him?
Yes.
You did.
Judge, can I ask one more question?
I think it's pretty good for you right now, but if you wanna go.
I'll leave. I'll leave.
Check. Damn, I just need a minute.
What? Yeah, give me just a minute. Allow you to ask about this, just in regard to the jealousy part, not the benefit. But if I do, I immediately have to give a limiting instruction. So I'm looking at the limiting instruction I have to give immediately after that.
So what I need to stay away from is benefit.
There's no proof of benefit.
Right. I'm just making sure. Thank you, Judge.
I just want to leave this instruction, I'll be right back.